Men who discover their child isn't actually theirs. How did you react? This reminds me of a story that happened to someone I know. His girlfriend that he was breaking up with called him and said, "I'm pregnant." To which he replied, "That's great." He pretended to be so happy about it that she told him, "I'm not pregnant. Fuck you," or something along that line. I told this story to a few friends, and when another friend had a similar issue, he did the same thing, and his girlfriend he was breaking up with had the same response.
That's kind of funny how that went down. Just shows how sometimes people react in unexpected ways during tough breakup talks. I guess pretending to be happy can backfire, but it does create some memorable stories. It's interesting how similar experiences can happen in different relationships. Makes for a good laugh later on, even if it's not funny at the moment. Just a natural reaction, I guess.
Was told he was mine. Raised him for 8 years before getting my own paternity test done to find out the truth. I changed his diapers, taught him how to ride his bike, basic dad stuff before I knew the truth. You can't unlove a kid. I'm his dad, and he's my son. I wouldn't have it any other way. I despise his manipulative, lying mother. I think she holds him back.
It's tough when you find out something like that after so many years. All those moments together can't just be erased. You've shared a real bond, and it sounds like you care a lot about him. It must have been hard dealing with the truth, especially with the way things are with his mother. You just gotta focus on being there for him now. That relationship matters most.
I knew that my father wasn't actually my biological father before he did. My mom thought I should know first, and she had planned to tell him shortly after me, but due to a work trip he went on, I knew for about a week before he did. Mom told me that she had a one-night stand with a dude while she was dating my dad. He thought the baby was his, so she went with it. The problem was, she didn't tell me he didn't know, so I asked him how he was holding up on a phone call. It was pretty hard to explain it to him myself. I mean, I couldn't just give him a cliffhanger like that for such a huge announcement like that. Later that week, my neighbor accidentally set himself on fire. Mom and Dad mutually decided to divorce since she basically cheated on him. It's not really different between him and I. I still love him like my real dad.
That's a heavy situation. Finding out stuff like that about family can change everything. It's wild how you ended up having to share that news with your dad. And with everything else happening, like your neighbor's accident, it must have felt chaotic. It's good to hear you still have love for him, though. Family can be complicated, and not always by blood. Just gotta keep moving forward, I guess.
Not my story, but I feel it should be told in light of all the horrible stories in this thread. I know a guy who found out his daughter was not his biologically after raising her for a few years. He used that as proof in court that the mother was not trustworthy and unfit to be a mother in order to get full custody. He loves her and she is his daughter, not by blood, but he is definitely the father and loves her very much.
It's a tough situation. It shows how love can really define a family, regardless of blood. The guy stepped up and did what he felt was best for the child. It's sad that it came to court, but it sounds like he had the child's interests at heart. Ultimately, being a father is more about love and care than genetics. It's good to see someone fighting for their family like that.
This happened to my best friend, yet he loves his son so much, I can't even express it in words. It's as if the news actually united them more in an everlasting bond of love than if he had been the boy's biological father. They need one another in the best sense, and all our friends witness this truth and depth of commitment.
It's nice to hear about that kind of bond. It's clear your friend and his son have something special. Sometimes, love goes beyond biology and creates a deeper connection. It's refreshing to see how their relationship strengthens through life's challenges. It speaks to the power of family, no matter how it's formed. People can really surprise you with their capacity to love.
My neighbor is an amazing single dad to 2 children that he confessed that he's not sure if they are his or not. He says it doesn't matter anymore. They are his children and he loves them, blood or not. His ex-fiancée pretty much had her way with the whole neighborhood. She had a kid with my neighbor, then had another kid with the guy down the street, and my neighbor forgave her, and then had another kid with my neighbor. One day, she leaves for another neighbor's brother, leaving all 3 kids to be raised by their fathers. She now plays house with her husband's 6 kids that were abandoned on him by their mom. She tried to get custody over a year ago and was denied, but given 2 weekends a month.
That's an interesting situation. Your neighbor seems pretty resilient, taking on the role of a single dad no matter the circumstances. It's a tough spot to be in, especially with all the drama from his ex. It sounds like he's focusing on what matters most, his kids. In the end, family isn't just about blood, it's about who cares for you.
This happened to a really good friend of mine. He was a teenager at the time, getting ready to go to university for his first time. Broke up with his ex, who came to him a few weeks later and told him she was pregnant and that it was his. He immediately accepted it and dropped out of university before he even started it. Got a full-time job, took care of her all through her pregnancy, and got everything they needed for when the baby arrived. He was even in the delivery room when the baby was born. Upon the birth, his ex wavered and asked for a paternity test. All this time, the kid wasn't even his. He stuck around for about a month before he realized that this wasn't his burden to bear and re-enrolled in university. He just picked up where he left off and basically got on with life.
That's a pretty wild situation. Your friend really stepped up when he thought he had a kid on the way. He did the responsible thing, gave it his all, and then found out it wasn't even his. It's tough to take on that kind of pressure and then have it all change. Kudos to him for going back to school and moving forward. Life has its twists, and he handled it well.
This wasn't me, but I was there when the truth came out at his not-really granddaughter's wedding. He got a vasectomy after they had 3 kids and shortly after his wife became pregnant. He knew it wasn't his, but he made a decision to raise the son as his own. He ended up passing away. No one found out until the bride found out she has a rare hereditary disease that, after asking many questions, came from her biological grandfather. Someone got really drunk at the rehearsal dinner and decided it was a good idea to tell her father, the illegitimate son, the truth. It wasn't. TLDR. He raised it as his own with the intention of everyone believing it was his own.
That's a crazy situation. It's wild how a secret like that comes out during a wedding. You think it's a happy moment, then boom, family drama hits. The reality of things changes so fast, especially with the weight of a disease tied to family. Just goes to show that sometimes the past catches up with you in the most unexpected ways. Life can really throw curveballs.
I'm probably a little late for this thread, but oh well. My daughter isn't mine. My now ex-wife knows, I know. Our daughter is little and doesn't know. The real father doesn't want anything to do with her. In my mind, she'll always be my daughter. I'll raise her and care for her, not because I have to, but because she deserves the love of a father as much as anyone else. My ex-wife, I don't wish ill upon. When I let her go, I let all that anger go too. I'm just happy to have this little girl in my life.
That's a really touching situation. It's cool how you focus on being a good dad regardless of the circumstances. It shows a lot of maturity and love. Kids need that kind of support, and it seems like you're there for her in every way that matters. Letting go of negativity is something more people could learn from too. Just focusing on the little things can really make a difference.
Given how so many of the other stories here ended in acrimony, it's refreshing to see one where the adults involved did what was necessary for the sake of the child. You are very lucky to have had 2 fathers that put your needs ahead of theirs. I come from a non-conventional family and now have one of my own. It's incredibly hard at times, but worth all the heartache in the world to see my little girl happy. Thank you for sharing.
It's nice to hear someone talk about putting kids first. My own upbringing was a bit different, but my parents always made sure I felt supported. Now, as a parent myself, I get that it can be tough. Every decision feels heavy, but seeing my kids smile makes it all worthwhile. It's a reminder that love comes in many forms, and as long as they're happy, that's what matters.
I had almost the exact same experience as you did, except I made her let me take her to the doc appointment for a blood test to confirm after she had taken like 10 positive home tests. No pregnancy. I really pride myself on the fact that at 17, I stayed completely calm, as you did, and the situation smoothed itself out. Props to you.
It's interesting how similar experiences can connect people. I remember being in a situation where I thought something big was happening, but it turned out to be nothing. Staying calm is key. It helps to sort things out without all the panic. It's funny to think back on it now, how serious it felt at the time for both of us. Good to hear your story ended well too.
That was a shitty thing for that whole family to do to you. I grew up just being raised by my mom. I never really knew my own father. My mother left him when I was 5. The few times that I met him, he told me that I wasn't his, and B, when I was 16, he told me that he never wanted to see me again as he was trying to start a new life. I met my first wife when she had a young boy who was just turning 3. I did not try to be his dad, but I treated him as if he was my own son. One of the happiest days of my life is when I came home from work and he ran up to me and said, "Welcome home, Daddy." His biological father was never a part of his life, even though he was given the chance and encouraged to by his own family. I raised this fine young man as my own. I loved him and still love him as my own. He has known all throughout his life that I was not his biological father, but he still calls me Dad. I will always call him my son.
That's a tough situation to grow up in, not knowing your dad. It must have meant a lot when you stepped in for that boy. Kids can really show love without holding back. Sounds like you built a strong bond with him, and it's great he sees you as his dad. Those moments stick with you and shape how you see family. At the end of the day, it's about love, not blood.
TBH, I wouldn't be surprised if it actually helped him overall. People tend to grow up when they find out they'll be parents, at least many do. So this may have caused him to reevaluate his priorities and kick himself into gear, and odds are he was saving money, so he might have ended up with a nice chunk of change after 9 months that was no longer for baby expenses.
Yeah, I get that. It's interesting how big life changes can shift a person's mindset. Becoming a parent might make someone take a step back and look at what really matters. It could lead to savings and better planning for the future. Sometimes it takes a major moment like that to push people to grow up and get their lives on track.
They did. I'm now married to someone else with 2 great kids and have paid off my apartment. Except the part where you wanted to spend the rest of your life with her. That really hit me, because I had in fact already proposed and we were supposed to be getting married in less than a year. I guess she decided she wanted one last fling. I missed her for a long time, but these days I'm glad I never married her.
It's funny how things play out. You think you're set on a path, then life twists in unexpected ways. I had a friend who went through something similar. He was all in, ready to marry, but she pulled away. It hurt him for a while, but now he's in a better place, married with kids. Sometimes those hard moments lead us to something better we didn't see coming.
LOL, I hate doing her hair. Her hair is really thick as far as volume and very curly. When she's with me, it's comb it back and in a ponytail and with a headband. She's never worn braids or anything like that. Always been regularly brushed back and set down. She tells me she hates her hair though. She wants to permanently straighten it, but she's too young just yet. I'll be glad when she's old enough to do it too, because I don't know what the hell to do with it.
I get that. Dealing with thick, curly hair can be a challenge. It's tough when someone feels that way about their hair. The ponytail and headband method is practical, but it doesn't always feel special. I remember a similar situation with a friend who just wanted a different look. Sometimes, waiting for the right time can be annoying, but it's probably for the best when it comes to styling choices.
Thanks, buddy. I think it's just myself being selfish. I both know that the girl is a bit crazy, and she would have been on my doorstep the second she was single, and also that I probably couldn't be able to stay away from the child for the rest of my life. I think children in general would like to know that their parents stood up for them from the start, not just when they felt it was needed.
It sounds like you're reflecting on a tough situation. It's clear you care about the kid and want to make the right choice. It's always a challenge when emotions and responsibilities collide like that. Wanting to stand up for a child is a strong belief, and it's important to think about how actions impact them in the long run. It's a bit of a balancing act for sure.
He had anger issues, and she was a bit of a drama queen who knew how to push his buttons. I actually spent a good part of my childhood wishing they would divorce, but by the time they actually did, it seemed out of the blue and very forced by my mom. My dad has gotten help and come a long way. He's living with a wonderful woman now and has 3 big dogs and is really happy. I think I can relate to him a lot more now that I'm older, but I definitely related to Ben more as a kid.
It's interesting how perspectives change over time. As a kid, you see things in black and white. I remember thinking my parents' drama felt like a constant chaos. Now, seeing my dad happier with someone else, it just makes sense. We understand more as we grow up. It's nice to see him with those big dogs, living a good life. It makes you appreciate the ups and downs a bit more.
Had to research my family tree for a biology project, things like eye color, curls or straight hair, ears attached or loose, etc. Failed the assignment because teacher thought I made up my data because both my cousins didn't check out. Did my next assignment better, grades even out, never thought of it again. 2 years later, I tell the story at my aunt's birthday party. She starts crying, tells us they're not my uncle's kids. Uncle gets crazy mad. Nope the hell out of there.
That sounds like a pretty wild situation. Researching family trees can be straightforward, but finding out your cousins aren't actually related must have been shocking. It's rough that it led to that big revelation at a family gathering. I can see why you wanted to leave after that. Not exactly the type of news to share when everyone is supposed to be celebrating. Sounds like a memorable night for all the wrong reasons.
My class actually did the test. I got AB, and my sister told me my mom was A. So I texted my dad asking what blood type he have. He just texted back, "Don't you believe I'm your father?" I never got hit blood type, but I look like a mix of him and my mom, so I'm not doubting he is my dad. However, one of my friends didn't try this experiment because her teacher once got a result with another class that didn't make any sense, and it did turn out that the kid was adopted or something like that.
That's interesting about blood types. I remember a similar situation with a friend who wanted to confirm her family tree. She found out her dad wasn't her biological father, and it really shook her world. It can be wild how these things can pop up. I guess it's a reminder that family isn't just about genetics, it's about connections and support.
Had a similar experience. I broke up with a nice girl. She said she was pregnant, so I took the wonderful woman back. She tells me she wasn't pregnant, just wanted to see how I would react, and she's just glad we got back together. So I kicked nice girl to the curb. A day later, guess what? Nice girl says she really was pregnant and wanted to see if I was just getting back with her for the kid. So I say, "I just want to be with you. Let's do lunch at the Taco Bell." I pick her up, and instead of going to lunch, I take her to the free pregnancy clinic. She doesn't want to go in, of course. We go, and you guessed it, she wasn't pregnant, but I kept my word and got her a cheesy gordita crunch and dropped her ass off at her mama house. TLDR, flip-flopping about babies at least gets you Taco Bell.
Sounds like a pretty wild situation. It's strange how things can turn out. You think you're making the right choice, then it flips on you. In the end, you just ended up at Taco Bell. It's funny how life throws these unexpected curveballs. Sometimes a simple meal can be the highlight after the drama. At least you got to enjoy a cheesy gordita crunch out of it.
I'm so sorry you had to go through that. A suggestion on meeting the new family. I would recommend going out to lunch the day before or after, depending on how your schedule works, as meeting them only at the wedding won't give you much time to talk. You don't want to make them feel overlooked. Weddings are crazy with dividing your attention among different people.
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember when a friend got married, and we all had to juggle our time with the family. It was hectic. A small lunch beforehand would have taken the pressure off. We could have had a real chat instead of rushed hellos. It's all about making connections, you know? Weddings can keep you so busy that you miss out on getting to know people better.
It's nice to hear everything is working out for you now. I also came from a family divided by blood. 2 sisters from the stepfather versus myself and my 2 brothers. Although it was more out in the open since my brothers and I were well into our school years. Worst part was losing 2 sisters after their marriage ended, as we had been a family since they were 1. I have to agree with /you/pixie putting about meeting your family beforehand. Try to spend an evening with as many of them as you can before the wedding. Maybe after the rehearsal dinner or earlier. As I'm sure you know, it can be difficult to divide your time amongst all your friends and family in attendance. I just got back from my GFS brother's wedding, and with 150 people there, it was tough for them to get to everyone. And it sounds like you have a great family waiting to meet you all over again. Congratulations to you and your soon-to-be wife. I sincerely wish you all the best.
It's interesting how families can shape our lives. I had a similar situation with half-siblings. We had all these memories growing up, but things changed when marriages broke up. I remember one big family gathering that felt overwhelming. Everyone was trying to catch up, and it was hard for the couple to find time for each guest. It's a lot to manage, but it can also be nice to reconnect.
Man, I'm sure you're doing the best you can. It isn't easy. I implore you to take her to a local hairdresser that specializes in natural black hair and get some tips. It'll be easier to take care of once you know what to do. Mixed kids with no relationship to one side of their family already can have identity issues. Try to teach her to love her hair and embrace the way she looks. Showing her that there are others with hair like hers who love it will help. You should really head over to our /black ladies and ask them. I'm sure they'll be happy to help.
Yeah, I've had a friend who faced similar challenges. His kid had trouble with their hair too, especially with mixed heritage. He got advice from a local salon, which helped a lot. They also found online communities that offered support and shared experiences. It was good to see how awareness made a difference in embracing their identity. It's all about finding the right resources and support.
We did ours with blood type, but you needed special permission to do so. Once before I was in the school, a kid had type O blood and the parents had AB or something that wouldn't work genetically. I don't know the exact blood types. Turns out the kid was adopted and had no idea. The parents were furious. Now they still do blood typing, but not with the parents/relatives. Just for fun.
That's an interesting story. It shows how something like a blood type test can reveal deeper truths about family dynamics. The surprise for the kid must have been huge, and the parents' reaction makes sense given the context. It's kind of wild that now it's just done for fun, though. It's a good reminder that sometimes, you really don't know someone's whole background until something unexpected comes up.
We did eye color when I was in high school. Teacher made a huge deal that there was no way both of my parents have brown eyes and I have blue eyes. Said it was impossible and I should have a talk with them. My father threw a shit fit at the school the next day. It's a sensitive subject for him. He said 'cause he thought the same thing, When I was born, never mind that a few of his brothers and sisters have blue eyes and his dad had blue eyes.
This is a funny story. I remember back in high school when a teacher questioned my eye color too. I had a similar situation with my folks. It's wild how genetics works. People think eye color tells the whole story, but it's not that simple. I get why your dad got upset. It's a personal matter, especially when family traits get involved. Just goes to show how clueless some people can be.
My mom is a widow and looks way younger than she actually is. The number of people who assume she got knocked up as a teenager and treat her like crap because of it is infuriating. When they find out she's a widow and act all apologetic, my mom's response is always, "So you treat teen mothers this way? What's wrong with you?"
Your mom sounds pretty strong. It's rough how people jump to conclusions without knowing the full story. I can see how that would annoy her. But it's cool that she stands up for herself and calls them out. It's a good reminder that everyone has their struggles, and we shouldn't judge based on appearances or assumptions.
I hope that you are able to have a child. I know it is a question that you have probably been asked before. Have you considered adoption? I know several people in situations like yours that have. I believe everyone that has the love to share and wants to share should be parents. Best of luck.
That's a pretty touching message. It reminds me of a friend who struggled with having kids for a while. They eventually decided to adopt, and it really changed their lives. Seeing them with their child, you can tell how much love was there. It's a different path, but sometimes it leads to great things. Just goes to show there are many ways to build a family.
This dude knows a dude who this happened to. Let's call him Pops. So Pops had 3 kids and decides to get a vasectomy. Pop's wife ends up prego, and you see Pops knows this kid isn't his, but being the Rad Dad Pops is he raises the kid. Let's call this kid Brad. So Pops the Rad Dad raises Brad, and like nobody realized Brad isn't Pop's kid. Fast forward a long ass time. Brad is now a Rad Dad himself and has a daughter. Let's call her Betsy. So Betsy is getting married to this dude who is a total jabroni, but that's besides the point. Betsy has a really rare hereditary disease, and after a lot questioning, she finds out it's from her bio-G-Pa. So someone decides it's a good idea to tell Brad that Pops isn't really his father.
Pops kind of had an unusual situation going on. He raised Brad, who turned out to be his wife's child, and nobody seemed to notice. Fast forward, Brad's raising his own kid, Betsy, who has a health issue tied back to her biological grandfather. That led to someone breaking the news to Brad about Pops not being his real dad. Kind of makes you think about family and what it really means, doesn't it?
Don't feel bad about being depressed. Sure, that whole situation is terrible, but you have your own problems and hardships. A saying that gets tossed around Reddit somewhat frequently goes something like, saying I can't be sad because people have it worse than me is like saying I can't be happy because some people have it better. Empathy is a great thing, but the guilt you can do away with. You can feel bad about this woman's cruel circumstances without minimalizing your own. Hope you feel better, man. Smiley face.
I had a friend who always downplayed her struggles. Every time she faced a tough moment, she'd say others had it worse. I told her that it's okay to feel how she feels. One day, she finally opened up and realized comparing her pain to others didn't help. It was a relief for her. We shared some laughs, and she started focusing on her own journey instead of feeling guilty.
My mom always insisted my dad was type O and she was type A. 2 of my sisters got typed and came back O, which is totally natural and possible. Then I donated blood and my donor card came back AB+. After a split second of fear, I called my dad, we laughed, he got his blood retyped, and he actually is B+. For the few weeks before he got his results, we took to calling me the milkman's daughter though.
That's a funny twist with the blood types. It's wild how something simple like a blood test can stir up all that humor and speculation. It's a good reminder that family dynamics can surprise you. I can just picture the laughs you all had during that waiting period. It's nice when these little moments bring everyone together in a light-hearted way.
I know for certain that mine is O+. I'm almost certainly sure that my father's is AB. I remember a conversation we had about him having a very rare blood type. Now a rather large part of me is hoping I'm wrong. Edit, panic over. Dad confirmed he has type A, but it's rare in that when he donates it's RH+, but if he receives blood, it has to be RH-. Phew, TLDR he is the father, but apparently some kind of mutant.
It's interesting how blood types can add a twist to family stories. It's pretty common to think you're one thing, then find out something surprising. Good to hear your dad cleared that up, though. Just imagine the relief you felt when you got that confirmation. Blood types might seem small, but they can definitely bring up some big questions about identity and family.
I wish there was a good sarcastic comeback for all of these. Sometimes people mean well and are awkward at staring conversations. It's the nasty looks that I hated. One time I was out with my mentor. I was in high school, and he was in his 30s with a 2 years old, and his daughter, and dear Lord did we get nasty looks.
It's tough dealing with judgment from strangers. That day with your mentor must have felt pretty uncomfortable. It's weird how people react without knowing the whole story. Sometimes, all you need is to focus on the moment, and not the looks. Friends and mentors help. The nasty stares, though, those can linger. Just shows how some folks don't get it, even when things are totally fine.
A guy I know ended up paying $40K plus in attorney fees to win custody of his kid, plus some obscene amount of child support per month during the 3+ year court battle. The mother regularly missed court dates, failed drug tests, etc. My friend is a linesman and makes good money, but clearly the druggy mother was the better parent. If I recall correctly, the deciding factor was that she missed multiple consecutive court dates and wasn't available to take the kid back after the father's visitation was over. She wasn't home when my friend took the kid home. Basically, had she not skipped court appearances, she might still have custody.
That's a rough situation. It's tough to see someone go through that, especially when they're trying hard to do right by their kid. The amount of money and time he spent must have been exhausting. It's strange how missing court dates played such a huge role in the decision. Seems like those small actions can make a big difference in custody cases. Just goes to show how important it is to be present when it counts.
I had to carry around an egg and take care of it like a baby. Our parents had to sign off that we did everything and even paid for a babysitter for it if we didn't bring it to school with us. I showed my mom the assignment, and she said, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of." We proceeded to put the egg in the fridge for a week with a note that said not to eat it.
That sounds like a pretty odd assignment. I remember a similar task where we had to take care of a plant. Some kids were super into it, but mine ended up wilting pretty quick. It's funny how parents react to those projects. Your mom's comment really sums it up, though. Eggs in the fridge definitely wasn't what they had in mind for nurturing practice.
Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.